All right, so Charlotte Hornets. Now this is a very interesting team. I should have researched who the hell Steve Clifford is. I'm not familiar. I'm guessing he's an MJ guy, since MJ was the one that sounded like he wanted. I don't know what his last coach's name. I know Clifford was there last year, but the guy before. Anyway, yeah, the Hornets. Very, very, very interesting team. Definitely starting to see the team take a shape in the form of what seems like MJ's actually driving the team this time. He had, what's his name, Cho, come over from the Blazers, who had advised the lose a lot in draft strategy, which lasted one season before I'm sure MJ couldn't handle the idea of losing. So now you're starting to see some players that fit. Well, I don't know what MJ wants exactly, but they seem to be more hard-nosed and you know, his focus on, he really loves having, what's his name? Al Jefferson on the team. You know, a low post, back to the basket player, tall, long, old school game. And it seems like MJ's trying to, in the half court at least, go to an inside-outside sort of offense. Now that part, I'm not such a big fan of, but there are some very interesting pieces on this team. Let's take a look through here. Bismack Biyombo has never turned into a player I thought he would be, but he is still very talented, very young, great player to have come off the bench. His shot blocking is it's not great, but his length, athletic ability, and if he could ever learn to get some instincts to go along with it, he really could turn into just a top-notch shot blocker. I mean, that's what he's built for. Let's see, who else? Al, you know, Big Al. He's a great player. His defense has improved incredibly. I mean, simply from the fact that he's made it and something that he knew he needed to work on. And it really showed in the second half of last year. The Hornets Bobcats really started to play better in the second half of last year. Michael Kidd Gilchrist, I think, is just a fantastic basketball player. He's perfect. What's wrong, unfortunately for MKG is a player that belongs on a winning team. Because what MKG brings is those little things that the winning teams need to coalesce everything. So, what's a good team that could use MKG? I'll give you an example. Draymond Green is one of the best basketball players in the league. And stats won't show it. Most basketball experts won't notice it because they don't understand basketball, in my opinion. But MKG would be the same player, is basically, although they provide different things, it's the same role that Draymond Green provides on the Warriors. And if you ever watch the Warriors with Draymond Green in the game, you can see what a difference Draymond Green brings when he's in the game with the rest of the top line players. That's what MKG is. Draymond Green's not going to, if Steph Curry's gone, Klay Thompson's gone, you know, Bogut, all those guys are gone, of course Draymond Green's not going to win games by himself. And that's the same with MKG. These are guys that play to win. They have that characteristic where they can spot what the team needs. Now, they're not going to score a lot because they can't shoot very well, but they don't need to. And if the Hornets ever get to that, you know, that level, people are going to be like, wow, MKG, man, he looks a lot better. He's really improved. He'll be the same player, just in a different situation, in a different role. And once he finds that, you're going to see that they've been looking at this kid all wrong. Because he's not a traditional two. He's not a traditional small four. I mean, he is traditional, but not traditional in the sense that he's not a big scorer. He's a great defender. He just knows how to play basketball. And teams that have him on there usually win if they have the rest of the lineup, and they don't yet. So, anyway, I spent too much time on, or not too much time, but I feel very strong about Michael Kidd Gilchrist. See here, Gary Neal, he's a great pickup. I mean, he shoots, he can run the point fairly well. He's not very athletic, but that doesn't matter because he shouldn't be on the court as an athlete. He's the guy that just makes the right plays, and he does. Brian Roberts from the Pelicans, great pickup. Again, very similar to to Gary Neal, who also is very familiar to Gennaro Pargo, who's not that exciting though. Lance Stevenson, what a great pickup from the Pacers, because he can shoot actually fairly well, but what he can do is a lot of the same things Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, but he's a much better ball handler. He's big, he's strong, he can guard from 1 to 3 fairly well. He's just such a versatile player. Although he kind of overlaps with MKG, he does shoot somewhat better, and so it'll be interesting to see. And that's why they have Marvin Williams to play the 4. Will probably play next to either MKG or Lance Stevenson. Although Lance Stevenson can probably play 2 as well. But Marvin Williams, fantastic. Again, he doesn't need to be the main guy. He's not going to be the main guy. But he's 6'10", can stroke the 3. I mean, everyone's like, well, this guy was picked before Chris Paul. That was an error on the Hawks' part, obviously, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't serve a very important role. And let's see here, who else? Cody Zeller. I don't know. We'll see. He's a guy that has to see if he can fit in the league somehow. Jeff Taylor from Vanderbilt. I mean, he's the prototypical 2-3, long arm, super athletic, plays defense, can shoot 3s, doesn't need the ball a lot. He's not a great ball handler, but he shouldn't be. He should be off the ball. Now let's get to the meat of the team that I think are the most important players going forward. Al's going to be Al. All those other guys are dependent upon the ability of the team to develop real frontline offensive players. And so Kemba Walker, I think, is the most important player as far as offense is concerned. And in fact, I think that's a great thing that Kemba is such an important role, because Kemba is the perfect point guard. I'm not saying he's the best point guard, but he plays the point guard role the way you should in the NBA, meaning that Kemba can get his team into their sets. He plays good defense. And what I mean by getting the team in a set, that requires a real high basketball IQ. It's something that separates real, I think, in my opinion, real basketball playing point guards versus the ones that are just athletic freaks. So, for example, Kemba can get a team into a set. He can run a team. He can get the team to. He plays with pace, rhythm, anticipation, and he has the subtle dribble, body fakes, all that stuff to get the defense, slightly on its heels enough to get into the play correctly. Now, as a counter example, if you ever watch Derrick Rose is not a good point guard. He is not good at getting his team in a set. Now, he's an athletic freak. He can score whenever he wants, but when he scores, it's outside the offensive system. He's in a break. He's a ball stopper. So when Derrick Rose scores, a lot of the times, or most of the time, because the play stopped and everyone just stands around watching D Rose goes for his own. And that's great when you need a score and you're down at the end of the shot clock. But the problem is that he's doing this with 18, 17 on the shot clock. And the worst thing with Rose, besides that, because he can actually score, is that when he does try to get the teams into his set, he doesn't understand pace. He doesn't understand rhythm. He doesn't understand the subtle body fakes that other point guards use. He has, for D Rose, pace means not running full speed. So if you watch him, he goes slow, and then when it's time to make a move, all of a sudden he's from 0 to 100. And if you watch a guy like Kemba as a counterpoint, or Marcus Smart, they can go. They have a multitude of speeds. They play with different pace. That they set up guys. With D Rose, he's either going to be going somewhat slow, or he's going to be running so fast he probably has a good shot of losing control. So I really love Kemba. I think that he's the perfect point guard for the Hornets. And once they fill in the rest of the roster with real talent, they have one of the biggest pieces, and that's a starting point guard that can run the plays. And the second part of the big that every team needs is that big bump under the hoop, and that's defensively. Offensively, who gives a shit? That's not that important. It's defensively. And they picked up a player who, although not a shot blocker, his defense is his presence is enough to alter shots, which is even more important than block shots, because what you're trying to do is get teams to is trying to limit the options available to the offensive team when you're on defense. And so the player they picked up in the draft, Noah Vonleh, is just going to be, my guess, just a defensive nightmare for the rest of the league. I mean, he's long, he moves his feet as well as anyone for that size. He has the instincts, and what's great about Vonleh is he's the example of these experts who don't understand the game of basketball, because people look at Vonleh and they say, oh, but he didn't score at Indiana. First of all, he was never meant to score. Second of all, Indiana could not run their offense for shit. So Vonleh being a second or third option is completely reliant on someone getting him the ball. And I'm telling you, he never got the ball in a position to score properly. I mean, he's getting the ball out of rhythm, not in a good spot, and so in the NBA, he's going to look a lot different. He won't look as herky-jerky, but even if he did on the offensive end, when you watch him on tape on defense at Indiana, you can see how special this guy is. I mean, Aaron Gordon down in Orlando, he's a great player. His issue is he's athletic as Blake Griffin, but he's also as short armed as Blake Griffin. And Aaron Gordon has the defensive instincts, he has all that. His issue is that he does not have the length. Vonleh has the length. This guy, in my opinion, could be a real game changer for the Hornets. So we'll see. So that's my take on the Hornets. Oh, I forgot one player. The one player that I think could just turn out to be, and although I don't think he's, ultimately the most important player on the Hornets, he's just an amazing talent, and that's P.J. Harrison. This guy can rip threes from probably 40 feet. He can take it to the rack as strong as him. I mean, this dude is strong, man strong. He can play defense, like he blocks shots, gets steals. I mean, this dude is just bad. Now the problem is, he knows he's bad, and he's bad in every way, because this dude is a man. He likes to fight. He likes to, he's just a hothead. But to me, from what I've seen, he's a hothead for the game of basketball. And although I don't think coaches or GMs are necessarily have a huge influence on like a player, let's face it, MJ is the one guy that could have an impact on a guy like P.J. Harrison. So I think this is the right situation for him to at least get someone to just say, hey, be yourself, just be aware, man. You're going to get suspended. So anyway, P.J. Harrison, I think, is very exciting. So hopefully he'll get to play this year. So anyway, that's my take on the Charlotte Bobcats.